we're out here today having a conversation with the candidates, and then some of the people are asking who is good twin, bad twin. Well, what we do is we lend a voice to the community. We partner with community. We partner with the community in two different ways. We do public community service or through our media outlet, which is a vision or Facebook or social media sites or whatever we do. And so what we wanted to do today is we wanted to bring the candidates out to have an intimate conversation with them. So we have an agenda in place where we're going to first introduce the candidates. After we introduce the candidates, we're going to have a round of questions that we ask. We're going to also allow the candidates.
Hi, I'm Alden, obviously one of the twins, a good twin, bad twin. We thank you, candidates, for coming. Dr. Omari, which is representing the late, representing Chockwe, Lumumba's camp. And also we have Margaret Barrett Simone, who's obviously, it's a privilege and an honor to have you here with us today. What we would like to do today is, like my brother just said, we'll open up, give you guys a few minutes to talk about what it is that you would like to do or what your plans are as far as being mayor of the city.
First, let me thank the dazzling duo here, the twin brothers and their family, for having us today. Thank you so very much. And thank you for all the work you're doing in this community. And all we need is about a few hundred more of you, and we would solve every problem we have. We thank you so very much. I entered it because I believe strongly in the future of Jackson. I believe strongly in the people of this city. I have been here for generations. My father, one of our most beloved family pictures, is his picture with his first grade class at Poindexter Elementary School. So when I tell you that this area has a special place in my heart, my father actually grew up here in this area on Earl Street. I think most of those houses are gone now, but this is where he came from. He also was very involved in the civil rights period. He was head of the union that provided all the lights, sound, everything for all the networks that came in here. And this is not just ABC, NBC, ABC. It was BBC and people from all over the world. And the emphasis here was not to get this story out. For those of you who are too young, there were things that were so atrocious going on that we couldn't stand for anybody else to even hear it. My dad, I have pictures of him on the other side of the National Guard with their guns drawn, trying to get the story out. And we know what it is like during that period of time. That's part of my history. That's part of who I am. But mainly I'm here today to ask you for your vote as mayor of Jackson. I think there's such a bright future ahead of us if we can only reach out and grab it. And it takes all of you. And as I told the brothers, if we had hundreds more of them, we would solve the problems here in the city of Jackson. And we hope to maintain the legacy of our mayor, who proved that he could work across party lines, across color lines, and work with anybody and everything. And you proved that you were willing to tax yourselves to rebuild the infrastructure in this city. I believe that's the future that we hold. That's the future that's ahead of us. And I need each and every one of you to vote for me this next week as mayor of Jackson. Thank you so much. And thank you again for this forum.
If you will, introduce yourself first, please.
Hi, my name is Dr. Safia Omari, and I'm here representing Chockwe Antar Lumumba in his campaign for mayor. First of all, let me tell you why he's not here. Today is the anniversary of his marriage. So 1 year today, Chockwe Antar Lumumba married someone he'd known since he was a child. So it's okay to give him a hand for building family, because that's what he's all about. He also had the birth of his first child a week ago, Lumumba. So he's doing a lot of celebrating today, and he's been busy on the campaign trail, and he really needed to take some time out for family because family is very important. So he entrusted me to come out and meet with you and have this conversation with you about his platform and why he's in the race and what he hopes to accomplish as mayor. So let me just say that I know this young man very, very well. I've known him all his life. I knew his father for 37 years, actually. So I've known his father for most of my adult life. We've organized together. We went into the mayor's office together. So I know what Mayor Lumumba's vision was for the city. It was no surprise to me that he could work across all lines because I knew the man and I knew where his heart was. And he's always been about what's just and fair and right for people. He's always said, I'm a human rights activist. So that means if you're a human being and somebody is doing something wrong to you, he was going to stand up for you. And the issues surrounding him and the controversy around him were issues that came out of him taking a strong stance against injustice here in a place where injustice was the word for the day. So that's where the controversy comes from. At any rate, I'd like to say about Chockwe Antar, he worked very closely with his father in developing the People's Platform. He has been by his father's side in most of the struggles that his father took on. Once he became an attorney, he was right there with his dad, defending people who no one else would defend. He worked very, very hard on the Scott sisters case to help them get released. He also, as a child, we would drag him along with us to demonstrations. So he knows about injustice and inequality. But beyond that, he has a vision for the city of Jackson. And his vision mirrors that of his father.
Please introduce yourself.
Senator John Horhn.
Well, good afternoon. My name is John Horhn, and I'm a candidate for mayor of Jackson and hope that you will vote for me on April 8th. You know, I've served in the state Senate for 21 years, but let me just tell you a little bit about my background. I grew up over in Midtown, over on Roosevelt Street. My family came here from Holmes County, about 40 miles from here. And when I was 3 weeks old, they decided to move to Jackson to try to find a better life. My father worked in a factory and later became the first IBEW local union president in Mississippi. He was the second black union president in Mississippi, and he spent a lifetime working for the plight of workers as well as for the political empowerment of the formerly dispossessed. We also moved over and lived in the Lanier area, over in Georgetown, around Lanier Court, as well as on Enoch Street up from Mary Johnson Elementary. So I grew up in the part of the community that supported the lower middle class part of our community. Folks who were working every day, going to work, struggling, trying to raise a family, and trying to take care of their family.
Thank you, Senator Horhn. Thank you to all the candidates. Again, we want to thank you guys for coming. We really sincerely appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules. With that thought in mind, we also want to, of course, we thank Antar Lumumba because this is his first year anniversary, and he did tell us about.
Yeah, he did tell us that it was his anniversary. He was going to try to make it out, but we understood.
Also, Regina Quinn. We want to thank, although she is not here right now, she was here earlier, and so we want to give her special thanks for coming out. We understand that the schedules are extremely busy. Your schedules are extremely busy. Everybody is pulling on you.
We also had a Yarbors camp out as well.
We also have the Yarbors. And also, Harvey Johnson, he sent several messages. He's been in contact with us all week, so we wanted to say that openly that he too had a prior engagement, or he would have been here. There's another show that's going on as we speak right now. So we appreciate and respect your time. Before we start with the first question, this is kind of informal. There are a lot of experienced candidates, as well as there are unexperienced. The bulk of the candidates, there's a love for the city of all the candidates. But the majority of the candidates, particularly the three that we have here, are very experienced. Senator Horhn and Ms. Barrett. Antar was I know him personally, and I know he was instrumental in he did truly co-author some of the platform that his father ran on. So before we start, before we start our questioning, we're asking that you come from the line of specifically as though I'm a 4-year-old or I'm an elementary student, and you want to tell me what you did, because from the state level and the city level, there are a lot of collaborations. So it could easily be taken when you're talking about your agenda or your plan. What is it that you can do, and what is it that? So when we ask our questions, keep this in mind. Be specific as to what it is the city will do, or we need help from the public, or we need help from communities, or this is what I will do. Is that possible?
Well, the first question is in regards to the 1% tax increase. Of course, we know that has already been implemented, and the question at hand is, what will you do with the funds created? Because we already know that there is a council that's in response to, that's in conjunction with that. Thank you. But we wanted to know specifically, what would you do? Let's start with Simone Barrett.
And also, not only what will you do, is that council, can that council be changed, the format of that council? Because we understand that the government, the governor's office has about 4 representatives with that on that council. So again, what would you do with the funds? And again, specifically the parts, lay out the parts to us as though we're a 4-year-old, of what, so we will be realistic and set the expectation for us.
First of all, the infrastructure in this city, and especially in the areas around downtown, which I happen to represent. I don't represent this area, but many of them have the worst infrastructure of any areas in the city. We can't build upon that. We don't have the foundation. When we're down here on Capitol Street right now, and in the midst of this project, found out that what was underneath wasn't strong enough to even hold what we were trying to do on top. For too long, we've paved over, patched over, and we have all seen that it doesn't work. The public doesn't understand sometimes progress, because they think that progress is what they can see. Many times progress is what you can't see. It's what's underneath, and that's where we are far behind right now. As far as anybody promising particular projects and all that sort of thing, the Environmental Protection Agency has us under a consent decree right now. We are mandated to do certain things, and it will be according to the worst situations we have in the city, and you probably are sitting on one of the worst situations in the city. So we are mandated. We're under a consent decree. And we were able to negotiate a better deal than many cities have. This is not unique to Jackson. It's happening all over this country. But we were able to negotiate a better deal than many cities have gotten. But if we don't adhere to what that agreement is, there are fines to be had. I mean, our future is again encumbered, and we have to be sure that when these contracts are issued, and we're not talking about small contracts, we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars, that those contracts are negotiated with integrity, transparency, and with every safeguard that could be had to be sure that whatever our people have voted for to tax themselves, they get their money's worth. And I promise you, as Mayor of Jackson, I will ensure you of that. That is a promise to you.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett. Dr. Moore.
Okay, the 1% sales tax. When the late Mayor Chockwe Lumumba came into office in July, we were immediately thrown into a budget situation. And one of the questions that kept coming up is, how will we find the money to do what needs to be done with regards to infrastructure? We knew our streets were falling apart. We had pipes breaking right and left. We had the consent decree that Councilwoman Barrett Simone mentioned. That's $400 million over the next years that the city, that much work the city is responsible for doing. And that's not even taking into account paving the streets, fixing potholes, and fixing fresh water, because the consent decree only relates to sewer, our sewage. And the reason we're under it is because we were violating EPA regulations by dumping too much untreated sewage into the Pearl River and other points. So that's where the consent decree comes from. And like Councilwoman Barrett Simone said, this is happening to cities all over the country. And Jackson did do a good job of negotiating its consent decree down from $800 million to $400 million. Okay? The 1% sales tax is to improve infrastructure in the city. What Chockwe Antar will do with that is exactly what his father said will be done. They will use those improvements to create jobs for people who live in Jackson. We want the work to be in Jackson. 60% of the hires to be people who live in Jackson, and that in and of itself will jumpstart our economy in a way that hasn't been seen in a long, long time. So that's the 1% sales tax.
Thank you, Dr.
Well, let's talk about the 1 cent sales tax, because I was the author, the person who wrote the bill for the 1 cent sales tax. I did it first in 2009 under Mayor Melton, and we did not like how it turned out at all, and we came back in 2011, and we passed it for a 20-year period. We're still tweaking it even as we speak in the legislature right now, because the way it's written right now, we anticipated the 1 cent sales tax was going to go into effect in 2010. But it didn't go, it's not going into effect until 2014. So the 20-year period that we needed in order to be able to issue bonds and use the proceeds from the 1 cent sales tax to service the debt on the bonds had to be changed, because it only goes to 2032, from 2012 to 2032. That's a 20-year period. But with 2014, we need to push it up to 2034, and that's what we're doing in the legislature right now. You know, one of the big issues with the 1 cent sales tax initially was the commission. In my opinion, I did not want that commission, but I'm in the legislature. And for every one of me, there's 3 of somebody who doesn't agree with me.
Okay.
Sometimes you have to make compromises in order to get the tools we need for the city of Jackson. And that commission was one of the compromises I had to make. And the issue was either make this compromise on this commission or not have this $300 million opportunity. So I took the $300 million opportunity, because as I looked at it, the commission really was not that big of a deal, as Dr. Omari mentioned. All it does is approve the master plan. They don't control the money. They don't control the engineers. They don't control the architects. They don't control the planners. That's done by the city of Jackson, and their role is to work in conjunction with the city of Jackson to develop the master plan.
In closing, what would you do with the 1%?
Well, I just want to mention, we were saying we're worried about that commission. Well, let's look at who the chamber put on the commission. President Beverly Hogan, Tougaloo College. President Carolyn Myers, President of Jackson State. Godwin Dafe, a Nigerian-born businessman who sells insurance in town, great businessman, and then the head of the chamber. So all this fear about, these chamber appointments, it's not come to mean much of anything. They're great people. And so we're going to have folks from Jackson who are making the decisions about the 1 cent sales tax. The problem with the 1 cent that we've got is we still don't have enough money. We still don't have enough money. And much of what we've got to deal with goes below the ground. And we don't have control over that. EPA is telling us what we need to do as far as that consent decree is concerned. The opportunity is on the streets. We can select what streets are going to be paved and improved, and we also need to do it where we make sure that we involve local businesses.
Thank you, Senator Horhn. Follow-up question, Dr. Omari. With the, of course, like Senator Horhn just brought up, the water rates increase. How does that impact? Actually, how does you talked about? He mentioned funding. Will the water rate increase along with the 1% sales tax? Will that impact any of the challenges that the city faces?
It will definitely help, but Jackson has over $1 billion infrastructure problem. So the consent decree, and let me make the water rate and the sewer rate increase clear. Those rates were done to deal with the cost of the consent decree. That's the $400 million. That's expected to generate close to 300 of that $400 million, right? So you still have another 100 million that's not covered by the water and sewer rate increase. The 1% sales tax, we have to do infrastructure with that. So I have to agree with Senator Horhn when I say that even with both, we still don't have enough money. And that's why economic development is so important.
Oh.
And that's why putting people in homes where we can rebuild our tax base, the city's tax base, is so important.
Okay.
So, Mayor Lumumba didn't want to have to do those things, but he understood that Jackson would never start moving forward if we didn't bite the bullet and do what needed to be done.
Talk about, since you're both in agreement on that, we'll talk about the economic development.
Okay,
You say you're not in agreement.
I'll just say this, and I have the utmost respect for Dr. Omari and for the previous Lumumba administration. They got boxed in on that water rate increase. They have been boxed in, and here's why. The previous administration had moved forward with those water rate increase, getting everything in line, and they had sold the bonds that were going to be used to make the improvements to the water meters. Basically, what you're getting is new water meters going into your homes and your businesses. And Mayor Lumumba, as I understand it, tried to see if he could stop it because he saw a couple of things. He saw that the costs associated with changing out these water meters and getting a more efficient system in place was really overexposed and overpriced. We could have done what we're doing for $90 million for about half of that. So what that means to me is that we got a lot of fat cats in Jackson that are getting rich off the back of poor people, that are getting rich, folks from Rankin County even, because there's a lot of Rankin County that's involved with that water rate, those water meters. And as a result of that, we're going to be paying for an overpriced system and overpriced improvements, and none of that money initially is going to go towards the consent decree. It's going to go towards any other major needs.
Was this
that we
an
need.
Inherited? You're saying this was inherited?
It's something that Mayor Lumumba inherited.
Okay.
And when he discovered that the bonds had been sold, he knew that he was boxed in.
Okay.
So he had to go forward. But the only point I want to make to you is that when I passed that 1 cent sales tax in the legislature, I put a feature in there that gave the voters the right to decide. Now, when that water rate increase occurred, you had 7 people and the
council.
mayor
Right.
who made
So
that decision.
how would a city vote have changed, or what?
I don't
would it-
know,
what-
I submit to you that just like we gave the people the opportunity to vote on the 1 cent sales tax, we should have given them the vote on whether or not to raise their water bills.
Okay.
Okay, let me just say this. And I think Senator Horhn is mixing apples and oranges here.
Okay.
Now, he's talking about the Siemens contract, which was a business deal that took place before the mayor came into office.
Right,
Now, he
right.
did say it was something that we inherited.
Okay.
And I don't doubt, well, I know for a fact that Mayor Lumumba was concerned that there was a lot of fat in that contract that should be trimmed before moving forward.
Okay.
But the bonds had been sold. So we did have to go ahead and move forward. However, the Siemens contract in and of itself does not negate the need for the water rate increases. As a matter of fact, the city of Jackson's credit rating had been downgraded, and one of the reasons cited was that we did not have a systematic plan to increase our rates to adjust for the expenses that we were going to have to incur to fix our system. So we suffered a credit rating downgrade right before Mayor Lumumba came into office as well. So the water rate increase was something that had to be done. The sewer rate increase was something that had to be done.
So-
the Siemens deal, on the other hand, Senator Horhn is right. It needed to be done, but I think we were probably overcharged for what's
Okay.
happening
Now,
there.
now moving forward again. Now you're bringing out some good points, some underlying things that citizens may or not be aware of. But in terms of your candidacy or things that you would change specifically, what would you do for? Because we both established that that's not enough funds economically. And after you answer this question, we're gonna be want to get out of here. We have some questions from the audience. As you mayor, what will you require each party? How will you move forward economically to change the face of Jackson?
Okay, that's hard to answer quickly because there's so many moving pieces, and a lot of these moving pieces
There are
already in place, things that Mayor Lumumba put in motion and that Chockwe Antar Lumumba would keep going. One of the things is that Jackson has tried to build its legislative relationships, made a concerted effort to go to the legislature and ask for money that we need. One of the things we did not ask for this time, but we will be building a case for, is payment in lieu of taxes. We asked, and that's because state occupies so much property in Jackson that we don't get property taxes for. So they're using our infrastructure and all of that pretty much for free, and we need to be compensated.
For that.
And the other issue, another issue is the fact that we need to have a significant master plan for economic development in the city of Jackson that will take place all across the city of Jackson. And Mayor Lumumba was looking into developing corridors along Highway 18,
right.
a Capitol Street corridor from 55 to 220, a corridor along Highway 49, trying to think of the Medgar Evers corridor, in order to attract businesses to develop along those corridors as well. Also, with regards to small businesses, we're trying to correct the situation with HUD so that we can once again begin to give those small business grants and those facade grants.
Right.
So even when you have small businesses in the community, we can help them make those businesses inviting, landscaping, signs, that kind of stuff. And then co-ops, cooperative development. That's an alternative form of economic development. Let me tell you why I like and why he liked and Chockwe Antar likes co-ops. Because co-ops don't pick up and leave like big businesses do. Co-ops, they stay in communities. They're the people who live in the communities. So if you get them to building businesses and working together, worker-owned co-ops, so people aren't exploited, so people get paid living wages for the work that they do. So those kinds of economic development ideas or things that would that would directly involve the community, because we would be asking the community to come together. Tell us what kinds of co-ops you would like to see in your community, what kinds of co-ops you would like to develop. And then the other piece that's key to all of that is education. We got to equip our kids to come out and do something for themselves. Not just come out and get jobs. Getting a job is good, but we need to have an education system that creates kids who are going to come out and be innovative and build businesses, create jobs. The time of saying I just need a job is over. So I mean, there's so much.
I understand.
There's so
I
much,
understand.
and Chockwe Antar is just as excited as I am about what was happening, and we were both so devastated, but we're both committed, and we want you all to be committed with us in keeping this momentum moving forward. Now, can I say just one more thing? One more thing, real short. Okay, I just want you to know this not all just talking ideas, right? In November, we had every major community funding, national and some international funding agencies here in Jackson talking about ways they can fund stuff that happened in this city. This is directly a result of Mayor Lumumba's outreach to the foundation community. In May, we will have what we call Jackson Rising, a new economies conference at Jackson State University, May 2nd through the 4th, where we will also have people convening from all over the country, small businesses, foundations, all kinds of people coming together to talk about how you build an alternative economy that will make Jackson the city that it deserves to be, that our citizens have a right to live in. So with that, I think I'm done. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Omari.
Well, I'm a little bit confused as to whether we're talking about late Mayor Lumumba or whether we're talking about candidate Lumumba. Again, with all due respect to our late mayor, he was about to do a lot of good things. And I can talk about what I've done. You can go a couple of blocks over from here and look at the JSU Metro Parkway. That was legislation, a $20 million authorization that I got funded back in 1993. You can go down, 1995, go down here to the Telecom Center and the Convention Center. Legislation I got passed and approved that created a bunch of jobs back in 1995. You can go over here to the Civil Rights Museum and History Museum that's being constructed right now. Jobs are in play there as we speak. You can also go and look at the McDay's over at Westland Plaza, the Food Depot on Northside Drive, the Save-A-Lot at the Medical Mall. I recruited all those projects back to Jackson when we had these Winn-Dixie bankruptcies and all these grocery stores closed. I took it upon myself. That's not a legislative action. I took it upon myself as a citizen of Jackson and as a businessman to go in and try to recruit those businesses back to Jackson. We just built a couple of years ago a $14 million, 3-story, 81-unit senior housing development over here around Bailey Avenue at Mays Street that created a bunch of construction jobs as well as jobs that are permanent. We're about to build 163 units over in Fondren that will be high quality yet affordable housing. We're building 105 units down here on McClure Road of affordable houses that will be single family homes for folks to be able to live. So it'll not only improve the housing stock, but it'll also create jobs, both full-time and permanent, and temporary and full-time jobs. If we're going to go forward and from an economic development standpoint in Jackson, we've got to use 3 assets that we've got. We've got our infrastructure, we've got housing as an opportunity to create jobs and also improve our housing stock. And the third thing is health care. Right. And I'll say this finally, toward that end, I'm right now in recruitment of an operation that's about to create 30 jobs over at the Jackson Medical Mall that's going to do medical compounding. Economic development is what I do. I've been doing it for over 30 years, and I'm pretty good at it.
I wish we had time to deal with healthcare, because I have questions about how the mayor's role and would be in terms of the government and how he did not fund it. But we want to thank you and appreciate you, but want to take one question. Mike, do you have a question? Mike.
I don't have a question, but I want you to try to look through my eyes as I see it. Now, y'all been talking about money. I can understand that because, you know, it takes money to get things done. But everything trickle down, you know, it stops before it get to, I'm pointing at me, the homeless, you know. All this you're talking is about building the infrastructure and all this. You know, I know you can't satisfy everybody, but how can anybody that want to give back, you know, if they ain't got nothing to give? So, you know, I sit and watch. I mean, Jackson is sorry. Plain and simple. Why? Because they let things just go by. They let things just float on, you know. Like me. Because, you know, I said, all right, that's what they want to do. But, you know, I'm kind of tired of that. So I don't know who's going to win mayor. But whoever win mayor, I'm going to start stepping out. If it ain't right, I'm going to start speaking up on it. Just to give an example, somebody had some jobs. And then none of that job reached the homeless. Why? They put it in a free press. Now, if I'm homeless, I'm looking for a job. Don't you think I'm going to look in the Jackson Clarence Ledger wanted ad? So they put it in the back of the free press. How many people you know really look at the Jackson Free Press, you know? So that was a discrimination thing. You know, they don't have to say it, but I saw it. Let me say my piece. Then I'm going to get, I'm just trying to tell you what Jackson is, you know. There is a raw sewage. When they flush down here, it comes up down here. In the neighborhood where Key is at. There has been water running. This been there about 5 years. This water been running at a certain spot for 7 years. Don't I tell you, the city ain't doing nothing? So, I mean, this just 2 areas. I know more than, but, and that's on this side of town. Ain't no telling what's over there on that side of town. You know, you get these jobs, you get settled in these jobs, then you think it's all right, you overlook. You don't get out and walk around to really see what's going on, what need to be done. And it's from the ground up, you know, and not just from up and down, because if it's coming from up, it's only going to go down so far. So, you know, the city really need to get their stuff together. You're talking about infrastructure, you know, make Jackson beautiful. But it ain't going to be beautiful if you ain't got no beautiful people. See what I'm saying?
You're right, Mike. You're right.
Thank you.
No, thank you, Mike. In closing, and that's a good point. One of the reasons why we ask you, we appreciate you guys coming out, representing the Lumumba camp, and Senator John Horhn representing your camp. My brother and I, we're just regular citizens. We're not politicians. We're not senators, lawyers, doctors. We're just average guys showing the community that we're standing on board doing our part. We also brought you out here because of the ministry that comes out here. They've been out here for 3 years. This is a healing place, and they've established a relationship with the residents in this area, where they come out weekly and provide needs. One of their visions and plans is to maybe acquire the Atmos building to bring some of the services to provide for the homeless so that they can come for a one-stop shop. But anyway, so we want to appreciate you because we understand relationships are important. Calvin.
I wanted to ask if you could just take a moment, brief moment, please, brief moment.
Because we got to get out of
I
here.
wanted to address Mike's concern.
Brother, I hear you. I hear exactly what you're saying. And as your next mayor, I will not forget you. I give you my word of honor on that. If I've been known for being able to do anything, I get results. I get the job done. And I think one of the problems that we've had is we have folks who talk about stuff and they let it sit on their desk and let it sit on their desk and never move it, and 5 years go by, 6 years go by, and nothing's been done. That's one of the problems, and one of the reasons I wanted to be the mayor. I've had projects that I passed, in 1 year, 10 years later they get it done. Another project, 10 years later they get it done. We had $6 million that we gave the city when the so-called ice freeze, that freeze occurred where the city got shut down. We gave them $6 million, and it was 3 years before the city drew that money down. When I become mayor, we're going to move on the problems that are in the city of Jackson immediately and with all dispatch. I give you my word of honor on that.
Let me just say this, and I'll try to be brief, but I hear you, and I appreciate what you had to say. The People's Platform talks about dealing with people, not just the people with money, but the people who on a day-to-day basis have specific challenges in their lives. The city donates money to people who deal with homelessness, shelters, and things like that. However, what the mayor he wants to know, how effective are these programs? Are we just giving people money and they're not really making a dent in the problem? And if that's the case, then maybe we need to have some new programs, some better programs. Maybe we need to try to find housing so we won't have homeless folk. Chockwe, Antar is committed to people and moving the city forward. And I just have to say this about youth. One thing that youth do, youth act. A lot of times as we get older, we think we got time, but youth acts. And Chockwe Antar Lumumba is committed to the vision of his father and committed to continuing the work that his father started. So when Senator Horhn said how much of this is the father and how much of this is the son, it's both of them, because the son is just like the father. Thank you.
We promised that we would be ending this, so we just one more question, and then we're going to have to leave. Cal.
I haven't come to this particular area. However, his campaign has canvassed this area and talked to people to find out who they're going to vote for, but also what do they want? What do they want to see? The mayor, I'm going to talk about Chockwe Antar. He's committed to people's assemblies that will be moving around the city, talking to people about what they want and what they need. Now, it may not be this specific venue, but this is a place that we can definitely request that be added to his list. But yes, he is out in the community talking with folk and finding out what they want to see happen.
Yeah.
Senator Horhn.
I got started back in 2009 talking with and spending time with the homeless. The first group was over here off of JSU Parkway, over where what's his name, over near Dalton Street, in that area. There are a lot of folks that hang out over there. We also discovered that there were a lot of folks around over in Helen Mills under the bridge over there at Pearl Street. So, and then we have a lot of them out in North Jackson where I live. There are a lot of homeless folks out there in North Jackson as well. I've had dialogue with them, not in this park, but in various parts of Jackson. And then, as I mentioned, last year I was a part of a group that was trying to get funding to build a homeless veterans housing facility over on some land along Medgar Evers at I-220 behind the food depot over there.
One final question.
Hi. With all due respect, question. We've been out here, we're the hidden place of Jackson. We've been out here a whole year, rain, sleet, or snow. And we don't just feel sorry for these people, we love these people. And we've seen some many blessings and miracles happen out there in this park. And what we have been asking for is for that atmosphere building. Because we want to have a resource center to help these people. We're not just trying to put a Band-Aid on it. We're not just trying to help them for one day or just feed them a meal. We're trying to show them how to change their whole life around. So what I want to know to any of you, how can y'all help us get that atmosphere so we can help these people? That's what I want. Because they don't have a place to stay, so they don't care about the taxes. They don't care about the sewage because they live in this park. They sleep in this park on this ground. So what I need to know is, what are y'all going to do about that? Now, we want that atmosphere building. Now, I want to know, how can y'all help us get that atmosphere building so we can do something for these people?
Let me just tell you this. I'm not a politician, so I'm not going to sit here and make promises that can't be kept. So I don't know enough about the atmosphere building to come to you and say, I'm going to do this, that, and the other to help you get it. Now, all I can do is say that there's a process by which the city grants property, abandoned property, and all of that to people. And I don't know if you've gone through that process, and I don't know what the result of that process was. There's a committee of people. So the only thing that I can tell you is that if you need information on how to go about getting it done, we can help you do that. But I cannot promise you that you're going to get what you're asking for.
Okay, and if I could respond to that. Number one, I appreciate what the Healing Place is doing. I don't know what, between Stupot, between Gateway, between Salvation Army, you know, we need a strategy here. We need a strategy that works together, because a lot of these things are disparate, and they're doing their thing over here, they're doing their thing over there, they're doing their thing over there, and we need to come together to solve this problem. Now, I will tell you that I passed a bill about 5-6 years ago, specifically for the city of Jackson, but it's any unit of government can use it. You can declare any piece of property that you as a city own to be surplus, and you can either donate it or sell it at less than fair market value to an entity, a developer, a nonprofit, or whomever, so long as they put that property in service within 3 years. So there's a path forward on this. There's a path forward. I'd love to work with you about it.
Well, thank you guys for coming out again. This is another Good Twin, Bad Twin presentation. We appreciate all of the, again, Senator Horhn, the Lumumba camp, Dr. Omari representing Lumumba camp. We really appreciate you for taking the time out today.
I got one question before I go, though. Which one of you is the good twin, and which one of you is the bad twin?
I knew it's good and bad in all of us.
Good and bad of us.
And continue to follow us on Facebook. And you visit our website at goodtwinbadtwinunleashed.com. Thank you for joining us.